Hello, welcome to the episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Monday, August 28th. Hope everyone has some good days so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. We've got a lot to get into today on the podcast. It is a Monday program coming off of a packed sports weekend. Had some college football on this weekend. Another terrible weekend for the New York Yankees and the New York Mets as the Yankees dropped 2-3 at the Trop against the Rays, and the Mets dropped 2-3 at home against the Angels. But we saw some college football. Notre Dame crushed Navy 42-3. Marcus Freeman, Sam Hartman get a nice first victory for Notre Dame this season. And you got full week one. The rest of college football will get things started this weekend. We are now 2 weeks away from Jets-Bills. I'm officially starting my NFL predictions today. We'll get into that to open up the podcast today. We got a lot of NFL content coming your way. Less than 2 weeks away from the Thursday night game, Lions-Chiefs, to kick off the NFL season. And we are 2 weeks away from Jets-Bills Monday Night Football at MetLife Stadium. The excitement continues to rise. The excitement continues to grow if you're a New York Jets fan. And if you're a football fan in general, especially if you're a New York football fan, because New York football, the excitement this season is high. You've got a giant team coming off a divisional round playoff run last year. You've got a Jet team with Aaron Rodgers that has been everything as advertised in the offseason and training camp and even in preseason games, obviously on Saturday with Rodgers throwing a touchdown to Garrett Wilson. And also, as a New York football fan, the baseball has been so abysmal, you're just starving for some sort of success. And the expectation is both the Jets and the Giants are going to give the Jets success, and you expect both the Jets and the Giants to make the playoffs this year. So it's an exciting time of year to be a football fan, especially if you're a fan of the Jets or the Giants after what we've had to sit through the summer, and that was the terrible baseball. So today I'm going to begin my division predictions. We'll start today with the AFC East. And over the next 8 days, I'll do all 8 of the divisions. Today is day number 1 of 8 divisions. Tomorrow we'll bounce over to the NFC, do the NFC East, and go each day, taking you up until Wednesday of next week. And then Thursday we'll get you set. Next Thursday we'll get you set for Lions Chiefs. Then Friday will be Football Friday. So we've got content. We've got football content for the next 10 days straight with Locked In, doing predictions, division predictions, breaking down everything, getting you set for the 2023 NFL regular season, which is right around the corner. So we'll start with that today. I also want to get into a little bit of Yankees. I'm not going to talk a ton about the Yankees. I just want to touch upon the comments made yesterday by Brandon Lau of the Tampa Bay Rays, the 2 bench-clearing brawls, and why those comments made yesterday by Brandon Lau show you how far the Yankees have fallen off of being a top-tier contender in the MLB, and how the rest of teams view the Yankees at this point, that they aren't the Yankees of old. And being the Yankees, it's, Yankee, big brand. It's not the same anymore. And those comments yesterday showed that from Brandon Lau. So we'll get into that a little bit later on after we get into some football to open up the show today. And that's what we'll open with. Now, of course, obviously baseball, some baseball on tonight. Yankees will open up a 4-game set against the Tigers. Mets will open up a 3-game set at home against the Texas Rangers. I don't think there's a lot you can ask for if you're a Mets fan at this point. I think you just got to hope that, they go out and play somewhat of competitive baseball. You're a Yankee. There's nothing to be excited for if you're a Yankee or a Met fan right now. There really isn't. The Yankees, it's the young guys, it's the prospects, but that's about it. And not much else that you want to look forward to the next month and a half in the baseball season, or the final month of the baseball season. So we'll start today with football. So I did this last year, and this second straight year of doing this. Every day for the next 8 days, I'm going to give you my division predictions. So today we're going to start with the AFC East. I'm going to break down the schedule. So today's the AFC East. Tomorrow is going to be the NFC East. Wednesday's the AFC South. Thursday's the NFC South. Friday we'll do the AFC West, or the AFC North rather. Next Monday, week from today, we'll do the NFC North. Tuesday of next week, we'll do the AFC West, and we'll wrap things up on Wednesday with the NFC West. So 8 divisions in the next 8 days. Thursday will then be Lions Chiefs. That's next Thursday. And we'll have a Football Friday show up on that Friday. Monday will be a recap show the first Sunday. This is now 2 weeks, and we'll obviously get you ready for Jets-Bills. So really over the next 10 to 12 days and over the next months going up until February, there's going to be a whole lot of football content on the program. So we're going to start today with my AFC's predictions. For each team, I'm going to give you the floor, the ceiling, and my prediction. We're going to start at 1 and go down the list. I do it. This is the way I do it. So my floor for each team is I always think there's about 4 or 5 toss-up games every team has every year. So what I do is the floor is those toss-up games, they don't go in their direction, and maybe they get upset by 1 or 2 teams. The worst possible record a team can be. That's my floor. That's what I think is that's how I do my floor. The toss-up games, those toss-up games don't go their way. Maybe they get upset once or twice. So that's the floor. The ceiling is maybe they get a couple upsets. The best possible record for a team. Win, the 4 or 5 toss-up games that they've got in their schedule, all of those go in their favor. The best possible record. And in my actual prediction, I'll do last. So we'll start here with the AFC. So last year, just to give you some background here, the Bills and the Dolphins finished first and second. Those were the 2 teams that came out of the AFC East last year and made the postseason. The Bills were 13-3, won the division for the 3rd straight year in a row. Since Brady left the division back in the offseason of 2020, the Bills have won 2020, they've won 2021, they've won 2022. Pretty easily, too. The Bills have not had, there hasn't been much competition to be a division, to win a division outside of the Buffalo Bills. They've dominated this division since Tom Brady left. So Bills were first last year for the 3rd year in a row at 13-3. The Dolphins finished in second at 9-8. They actually lost to the Bills in the wild card round, and your 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs were the Patriots at 8-9, and the New York Jets finished up a 7-10 campaign last year after they were 6-3 at one point, and they finished 7-10, ended the year obviously on a 6-game losing streak. And when you look at this division on the outside looking in, there was some major changes in the offseason, and that was the addition of Aaron Rodgers in this division, where Josh Allen is now going to have a lot more competition to go up against, and I don't think that's biased. I don't think that's a crazy take. That's just realistic. The division now, in my eyes, is wide open when it comes to who's going to win its division. I don't think the Bills are personally going to win a division. I don't think that it's going to be as easy as past years. So I'll start with that. We'll go first. We'll go down the list to number 4. So first place, call me crazy, call me biased, I don't care. I have the Jets finishing in first. The acquisition of Aaron Rodgers was huge. You added to a roster that is already extremely talented. I'll kind of tie the Jets and the Bills into the same category here because I have the Jets finishing first. I have the Bills finishing in second. When you look at this Jets roster, again, I think a lot of people tend to forget that last year the New York Jets were in the division conversation with the worst quarterback situation in football. You put an average quarterback on the Jets last year, there's a good chance they are probably finishing at least second in the division and making a strong push to finish in first. There was one point last year when the New York Jets walked out of MetLife Stadium on week 9 where they beat the Bills when they beat the Bills and improved to 6-3 on the season. There was a really good chance that we were looking at the Jets potentially making a run for the division. The Jets were in the division conversation last year after beating the Bills with Zach Wilson. They ended up losing to the Bills a couple weeks later. Mike White got his ribs crushed. C.J. Mosley ended up jumping off sides. Easily a game the Jets could have won if Mike White didn't get his ribs absolutely destroyed. And easily a game we could have won if Mosley didn't jump over the center when everybody in America knew the Bills weren't going to snap the ball. They ended up going down and scoring before the half. The Jets almost swept the Bills last year with the worst quarterback situation in football. When you look at this Jets roster, I do think we match up well against Buffalo. And again, I'll get into Buffalo in a second. This isn't disrespect towards the Buffalo Bills. This is just more of the Jets are a legitimate contender. I think the media portrays the Jets 50-50. I think there's part of the media sees the Jets being this really good team. Part of the media does not see it working out. There's also that part of the media that is kind of sees both sides of it. My expectations are high for this team. We already saw the potential of the Garrett Wilson-Aaron Rodgers connection in training camp and on Saturday night in the preseason. I understand it's against backups, but still, we understand the potential. You've got Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner going into year number 2. I mean, when you look at this Jet team, I don't think this is biased to say we finally have the quarterback situation solved. We have a very solid receiving core. Maybe some people are a little bit concerned with the depth, but overall, you feel really good about Garrett Wilson. You've got a very good 1-2 punch with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. The offensive line is good. I don't think it's great, but I think it's solid and certainly good enough to protect Aaron Rodgers, and I think something that certainly can be top 15 in football, definitely an above-average offensive line. After that was one of the biggest concerns. We have one of the deepest defensive lines in football. The linebacker core, maybe with the inexperience of Sherwood, Does that cause problems with, potentially Zaire Barnes slotting in at any time? If, obviously, it'll be interesting to see how final roster cuts go down over the next couple days. But, again, you look at the secondary, too, it's great. I mean, the secondary is one of the best in football. The Jets actually have, statistically, Sauce Gardner was the best cornerback in football last year. I know a lot of people say Patrick Surtain, and look, Patrick Surtain's great, but Sauce Gardner statistically was better. He had a higher PFF grade. He had better numbers. He had the most passes defended in the NFL. So I think the Jets have one of the best 1-2 punches at corner when you look at DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. DJ Reed was criminally underrated last year, put up some better numbers in certain statistical categories than guys like Darius Slay and some of the other corners in the NFL that made some big impacts last year. So I like where this Jets team at. I think you're getting a much more motivated Aaron Rodgers. They were in the conversation last year for a good chunk of the season as potential division winners prior to the 6-game losing streak, prior to the quarterback problem really becoming a glaring issue. You add Aaron Rodgers to the mix, there's no reason the New York Jets shouldn't win the division this year with Aaron Rodgers when for a good chunk of last season they were in the conversation. So my floor for the Jets is 9-8. My ceiling is 13-4, and my overall prediction is 12-5. When the schedule got released in May, I said 12-5. I'm sticking to that. I don't think the Jets are going to go out and win. I just don't see them. I don't think they're going to go out and winning 14 games. I mean, I think you can easily look at this Jets schedule, and there's some difficult games on there for sure. But the one thing I can say is about the New York Jets, and then we'll shift over to the Bills here in a second. With Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, the Jets are going to be in every game. You are going to go into every Sunday or Monday, whenever the Jets are playing, because they've got a ton of primetime games. Every game day, you're going to walk into or turn on the TV, go to the stadium, however you're watching the New York Jets play this year. Every week that the New York Jets get set to play, you're going to sit down and you're going to have a chance to win. All 17 weeks of the season, or 18 weeks, I should say, 17 games, the New York Jets are going to have a chance to win. They're going to have a chance. Aaron Rodgers is going to give them a chance to win every game. And I mean that against the Chiefs. Like last year, Zach Wilson rolls out there against Mahomes. You know you're probably not winning. With Aaron Rodgers, I'm not saying the Jets are going to go 17-0. Believe me, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is every week with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and the talent on this roster, every week the Jets are going to have a realistic chance to win. And that's just the way it is. And I don't think you have to be a football genius to understand that. I don't think you have to be a biased Jet fan. You don't have to be a biased Jet fan to say that. When you have a Hall of Fame quarterback every week, a future Hall of Famer, every week you're going to have a chance to win. And that's how I think it is going to be with the Jets this year. So I think they finish in first, 12-5. I like the way we match up against Buffalo. I really do. And second place, I have the Bills. Again, this isn't any disrespect towards the Bills. The Bills are still a very talented team in my eyes. You've got Josh Allen. Obviously, I've talked about this when I did my quarterback rankings. I think he's the third best quarterback in football. I think when you're talking about physically dominant quarterbacks, Josh Allen, I think, is the most physically imposing quarterback with his size, his strength, and his pure ability to just run through defenders when he runs into the open field as a rusher. You like where the defense is at with the Bills. They are getting some key pieces like Tre'Davious White back, who you expect to be 100% this year. Last year wasn't the same coming off the torn ACL. You expect him to be back at full 100%. I don't know if he'll be the same player he was a couple years ago just because of age, but you expect him to at least insert himself back into being a top 10 corner. I don't know if he'll be a top 5 corner where he once was, but he can certainly be back in the top 10, top 7 conversation at cornerback this year. The linebacker spot, they've got some pieces. I know some people are a little bit concerned with the linebackers. I think the Jets are deeper. I think the Jets have the better defense. You want to say maybe the Bills have slightly better weapon. Maybe they have the better weapons in terms of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis as your 1-2 puncher receiver. You could certainly make the argument that's better than Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard as your 1-2 punch. But I certainly think, as I mentioned, Garrett Wilson can take that jump of being a top 7, top 6 receiver this year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. You expect those numbers to take a massive, massive increase. But something that I think people have also noticed too, and this is why I think the Jets match up well against the Bills, is a lot of people all offseason, people have been talking about the Jets' offensive line being a major issue. I'm not saying that the Bills' offensive line is bad, but they've got some concerns. I think if you're a Bills fan and you look at the offensive line, you're certainly not overly confident. You're certainly not sitting there saying, oh, yeah, that's the strength of our team. I'm not saying the Bills' offensive line is terrible, but there's certainly some concerns. There's certainly some potential issues with it. Again, the Jets' offensive line's not nearly perfect either. They've barely played together. They've also got to go out there and prove it. So I think both teams, if you had to pick out maybe one concern, it potentially could be the offensive line. And that's why I think the Bills matchup, or the Jets matchup well against the Bills, is because of the defensive line. We are very deep. I mean, the Jets are going to make cuts today on guys that on many other teams probably would play a role. I mean, the Jets are going to make cuts over the next 24 hours here just because they've got to hold, they're going to hold on to probably 10 guys, and there's 2-3 guys that are going to get cut that easily could play a role in another team when it comes to the Jets D line. And that's where the Jets match up well with the Bills, is when it comes to the defensive line. And again, the Jets beat the Bills last year with Zach Wilson. Like, you add Aaron Rodgers to the mix, I think that's where I think they match up well. But again, I don't think the Bills are going to go down lightly. I think the two division games are ultimately going to decide it, in my opinion. Week 1's big, and then the next time they meet later in the year in Buffalo are going to be massive, massive matchups. When you look at the Bills running back and James Cook, I like what he brings to the table. Dalvin Cook, James Cook, the whole the battle between the two guys. Obviously, battle between the two brothers, I should say, instead of the battle of two guys. The battle of two brothers, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch throughout the season with two brothers being in the same division. I like James Cook a lot. I think he's got a high upside, but he's also got to prove it still. The Bills are going all in on James Cook. A lot of people have talked about the Bills in the offseason. The Bills the past couple years haven't had a legitimate running back. Josh Allen's really been their best running back, and he's the quarterback. So I think the Bills are going to rely a lot on James Cook. You're going to have to rely a lot on James Cook. One of the X factors for the Bills this year is James Cook, in my opinion, because if they can get the run game going, the Bills have found a way to have all this success over the last 3 years without a legitimate run game, and that's hard to do. So I think if you can get James Cook going, and he's legitimately the player that they think he is, and maybe the player that he showed at times last year that he can be, you feel good about your chances there with James Cook. But again, he's got to prove it, because the Bills are investing a lot into him in terms they didn't go out and make any major moves. Jonathan Taylor's available. They're obviously not trading for him. There was guys in the draft that they could have looked at, didn't go out and get. So there's been a couple opportunities over the last year and a half, especially this offseason, for the Bills to potentially go out and make a move for a running back, bring in a veteran, whether that was a Dalvin Cook or now Jonathan Taylor, and they clearly aren't going to do it because they believe a lot in James Cook. So James Cook's one of those X factors, in my opinion, as a guy that if the Bills are going to have a lot of success this year and want to make a push for a 4th division title in a 4th year in a row, James Cook's going to have to be one of those bigger pieces. So Bills, I have finishing second. Floor and ceiling I have is the same for the Bills at 9-8, ceiling 13-4. I could see the Bills' ceiling being a little bit higher than the Jets, just because they're a little bit, again, the Jets have youth, but at quarterback, for example, like they're a little bit younger. I could see their ceiling being a little bit higher, or maybe even their floor being higher than the Jets, because if you look at the Jets, their floor I could potentially see the Bills having a higher floor than the Jets. Like the Jets, if things really go wrong, it could be a disaster. I don't think they will, but with the Bills, I don't think much can go wrong for them this year. I know there's a lot of people out there that have this notion that the Bills are not going to be good this year. That's just simply false, in my opinion. They're still a very talented team. Maybe their I know a lot of people think their Super Bowl window has closed potentially, but I still think they're going to be, as long as Josh Allen's healthy and he's their quarterback, and as long as Stephon Diggs is with the Bills and their number one receiver, they're going to be in the conversation every year. They are, and they still are. So Bills second. I have them finishing 11-6, a game behind the Jets. All right, so now we go to the third and fourth place. I have the Dolphins finishing in third. I don't love the Dolphins. You know this about me last year. I was completely wrong about the Dolphins last year. Actually, I predicted the Dolphins last year to finish 6-11 and finish in last. So I was wrong about the Dolphins last season. I was. They finished 9-8. I think they're going to be similar to that this season. I'm not in love with the Dolphins. I know Vic Fangio, they got to the playoffs last year. Skylar Thompson, if they add Tua, how deep could they have gone? I'm just not a big Tua guy. I'm not. And you know that about me. At first I thought I really liked him coming out of college, but seeing him in the NFL, he just has really kind of been way below my expectations of what I expected him to be. I understand you've got Tyreek Hill, you've got Jalen Waddle, which is a very good 1-2 punch at receiver, no doubt. But I still don't have full trust in Tua. You wonder, the health is a concern and seriously a concern. I mean, you hope that he stays healthy this year with the whole concussions issues where he's dealt with a lot of head injuries, which is certainly a scary thing. Potentially they go out and add a Jonathan Taylor here with a trade, which would certainly boost their roster because I do look at this the Dolphins running back room and you don't love it. Most are probably leading the way, but outside of that, you don't love the the Dolphins running back room, which is certainly concerning, especially if Tua would to go down and you need to rely on the run game, which the Dolphins tried to do last year and it didn't necessarily work. How does that play out again? I think having a security blanket at running back if your quarterback goes down again, which has had some injury issues, I just don't love that. Again, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you like those guys a lot. You go to the defense side of the football, Jalen Ramsey will miss the first part of the year. You've still got Xavier Howard. You've got a edge rusher like Jalen Phillips, who's put together a really nice beginning of his career. What ultimately comes down to with Dolphins, I understand they were a 9-8 team this year, and I actually have them finishing at 9-8. I just think the two teams ahead of them are just more talented. Let's be honest here. I don't really think Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen are, in my eyes, better than Tua. I don't think there's much of a debate. I mean, I think if you just... Tua, to me, the injury concerns, I just don't fully trust him as a quarterback to go out there and win 12 games this year and win the division. I just don't see it. Their floor, I have their floor being at 7-10. Their ceiling at 12-5. Because I do see, look, if Tua plays well, and he was playing well at parts of last season before the injury. He was. The Dolphins were playing really well. I mean, the Dolphins had it. It was crazy because the Dolphins... I think they started the year winning 5 straight, then they lost 5 straight, then they won 3 straight, then they lost 3 straight. They had such an inconsistent up and down season. If they can find consistency, if Tua can stay on the field, that's my biggest concern. I don't fully trust if Tua can stay on the field for a full 17 games. And even if he does, can he go out there and consistently put up good numbers and win? I don't see that. But if they do find that consistency, if Tua does find consistency and stays on the field, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you've got the weapons. They've got the pieces. It's the quarterback that's the question. Then I could see them getting up to 11-12 win mark and certainly making a push for the division because early last season, they were making a push for the division. They were. I mean, you wonder if Tua doesn't go down, how much better does the record look? Are they an 11-win team to opposed to a 9-win team? How do they fare in the playoffs? Those are all questions. So I do see them. They have the potential to get up to that point. I just don't see it happening. So I think they're going to get to 9-8. I think they're going to be similar to where they were last year. You're probably going to walk away from this season still not fully knowing about Tua. I think you're going to probably walk away from this season and he's going to show you some good, show you some bad. Just from a football fan perspective, you hope he stays healthy because you never want to see any head injuries. You never want to see concussions, something that could put your career in jeopardy. That's never anything that you want to see, but is certainly a concern from a Dolphins perspective. So I'm going to put the Dolphins at 3. 9-8, they're going to finish in 3rd. Now, I think if we are, you might, by this point in the episode, if you're a Dolphins or another fan, you might hate me already for putting the Jets at 1st, but I think we can all agree that at this point in the episode, having the Patriots in 4th place, I think we can all agree, if you're a Bills fan, Dolphins fan, or in my case, a Jets fan, you've got to just be happy about that to see the Patriots in last. I think we can all agree. Let's see the Patriots finish in last, and let's see them stink. Let's see them become irrelevant. I am all here for the irrelevancy of the New England Patriots. I just want to see the Patriots be irrelevant again. I think they're going to, I seriously do think they're going to finish in last. Look, they don't have many weapons. Mac Jones is not any good. When you look at this roster, there's just not enough talent. A team, they went 8-9 last year. They missed the postseason. I think probably the biggest strength of their team, they've got a good 1-2 punch at running back. I know Zeke isn't quite the same player, but Rahamjay Stevenson, I like him a lot. He's a really good running back for them. The running game's good, but there's so many questions when it comes to defensively, offensively. You don't love the quarterback. I think Mac Jones is the worst quarterback in the division, which all of a sudden puts you back because you have the worst quarterback in the division. In a quarterback-driven division, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. And let's be honest here too, when you look at the Patriots amongst the rest of the AFC, the AFC is driven by quarterbacks. The Patriots don't have a quarterback. So start there when you look at when you look at the issues of the New England Patriots. You don't have to be a genius football fan to realize Mac Jones isn't any good. And part of it could be New England's fault, too. They haven't surrounded him with much weapons. I mean, his number one receiver is Juju. His receivers are, his three top guys are Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, and Kendrick Bourne. I mean, that's what he's throwing to. Look at the other receivers in the division. Garrett Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Allen Lazard, Gabe Davis. I mean, there is 6 receivers in this division better than the Patriots' number one receiver. So they have the worst quarterback in the division. They have, in my eyes, the worst receiving core in the division. Every team in this division, Jets have Garrett Wilson, Bills have Stephon Diggs, Dolphins have Tyreek Hill. And I actually think out of every team in this division, I think the Dolphins probably have the best receiving core in terms of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You can make a strong argument they have 2 top 10 receivers. I think Garrett Wilson's top 10. I think Diggs is top 10. I don't think Lazard or Gabe Davis are top 10. I think Dolphins have 2 top 10 receivers. But again, it goes back to the quarterback. I don't fully trust Tua. But back to the Patriots. They don't have a single top 10 receiver. Like, they don't have a single guy that you can forward. Is it Juju Smith? Like, Juju Smith-Schuster? He's not nearly the same player he once was in Pittsburgh. And not a guy that you can rely on as a number one. Devontae Parker? No. They're not. Kendrick Bourne? No. So they don't have the receivers. They don't have the quarterback. I do like their running back situation a lot. I do. But that's not going to win them a division. That's not going to win them many games. Their floor, in my opinion, is 5-12. I think this could get ugly. I mean, I look at this Patriots roster, and there's not a whole games they're gonna be able to win. I mean, there's a lot of games where they're gonna go into it with an automatic disadvantage. As a Jets fan, believe me, I've seen this forever. When you don't have the quarterback, when you don't have the guy at quarterback, and you don't have the weapons around the quarterback, which the Jets have not had for years, it doesn't go well. And New England, that's the case here. Their ceiling, I think, is 9-8. I know maybe they get to a 10-win mark if magically Mac Jones turns into some really good player. I think their ceiling's 9-8. I'm not in love with Bill Belichick. That's another thing, too. Can we stop with the Bill Belichick talk? Can we stop with the Bill Belichick? Bill Belichick, what is Bill Belichick without Tom Brady? Nothing. He's nothing without Tom Brady. He hasn't won a single thing without Tom Brady. So let's stop with, they've got Bill Belichick. Come on now. I mean, if you would have asked me right now, because I don't fully know about Robert Saleh. He's still a question. He's got to go out there and prove it this year. You asked me about Sean McDermott. I would take Sean McDermott right now over Bill Belichick as a head coach. I would. I do not. Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady. He's nothing. What has he done without Tom Brady? What has he done? Nothing. So, the Bill Belichick conversation about, they've still got Belichick, best coach in the division. I don't actually believe that. I don't think he's the best coach in the division. He might be the best coach in terms of track record, sure, but how much of that track record was actually him and how much of it was Hall of Fame quarterback play from Tom Brady? Well, that's a different discussion. So I ultimately have the Patriots finishing 7-10. I think they'll finish in last in the division, miss the playoffs for the second year in a row. And my 2 playoffs teams from this division are the Jets and the Bills. I think Dolphins and Patriots miss the postseason. I'm going Jets, Bills, both get the playoffs. Again, Jets finishing in first 12-5, Bills second 11-6, Dolphins third 9-8, Patriots fourth 7-10. I could see the Patriots finishing 6-11 because you look at their schedule and you can only really find 4 to 5 games that they legitimately are going to probably win, toss-up games. I think there's every year a team has an upset or two, so I do think they might be able to pull off a win. Maybe, last week of the season they play the Jets, they could potentially catch them benching their starters, or even late in the year against some of these other teams. Maybe they go on the road and shock Miami. I don't know. I just don't see the New England doing a whole lot. I think they'll finish 7-10 and have a 10-loss season. So, which I think should make every AFC fan feel good. AFC East at least. So Jets, Bills are the 2 teams I have coming out of my division. Now, last year I only had the Bills making it. Last year my standings were Bills, Patriots, Jets, Dolphins. This year it's Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. So definitely a lot different than what I expected last year, and a lot different than the standings that were last season. Bills, Miami, New England, Jets last season were the standings. Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Patriots. Jets and Bills are the 2 teams I've got going to the postseason out of the AFC East. So that opens up 5 more spots for the playoffs in the AFC. 7 spots overall. 2 spots are now filled. Jets, Bills are the 2 teams I've got so far. We'll do the South, North, West over the next 8 days, and we'll get you 5 more playoff teams, and we'll get you on your way when it comes to the AFC, which is stacked. Again, it's crazy to think that, like Tua, Tyreek Hill, those guys, if these predictions do hold true, they're not going to be a playoff team, which is crazy to think that Tyreek Hill potentially could not be in the playoffs. I know a lot of us have talked about all the good quarterbacks in the AFC. You look at Burrow, there's like 8 really good quarterbacks in the AFC. One of them's not going to be in it, which is crazy to think. So those are my division predictions for the AFC East. Tomorrow we'll do the NFC East. We'll get you the other New York football team with the New York Giants, and we'll get you the NFC East predictions, and every day we'll bounce back and forth from AFC East to NFC East, AFC, NFC, AFC, NFC, taking you up until next Wednesday, and then Thursday, obviously, we'll get you set for Chiefs-Lions. So football talk on the channel, a lot of it moving forward. First division in the books. Hit me up in the comment section down below. Agree, disagree, call me biased, say whatever. I'm open to all criticism in the comments down below when it comes to my takes on the NFL, my takes on the Jets, and we'll get into that here. Leave a comment down below. Leave a comment with your division predictions. Do you agree with mine, disagree with mine, completely disagree, and you think the Jets are going to be a disaster? Leave it in the comment section down below. I will listen to it all. Enjoy going back and forth with you guys, talking all things sports. So that's what we got for the NFL. Now we move on here to a little bit of baseball, and I won't be long with this. I'll be pretty short. But the Yankees yesterday lost to the Rays 7-4. Lose another series, so they lose 2 of 3. We're ending August here, and the Yankees have 1 series win in the last 2 months, dating back to July, and here we are. We're still sitting here, and the Yankees are an absolute disaster. But yesterday, 2 benches clearing in the same inning. The Yankees have hit Rays players like 12 times this year. 1 got hit in the head yesterday over this weekend series. Rays players are fed up. They're frustrated with it, and rightfully so. You understand their frustration. No player likes getting hit, whether it's intentional or not. No player likes to get hit. But yesterday the bench is cleared. So Rosarena got hit by Albert Abreu. He took exception to it when he got hit at first, and then he stole third. Helmet came off. Went back to go get the helmet. Was still chirping with that Albert Abreu. And then the bench is cleared again. So the bench is cleared twice in about 5 minutes. And it was just a disaster from a Yankee perspective because, the season's a disaster. Now the benches are clearing. Now you've got guys saying comments about this team that you really start to understand where the Yankees currently sit in terms of the reputation that they have around MLB. And I'll give you a quick standings update here for maybe some of you that have completely lost sight of this team, completely don't care about the team, and I don't blame you for that. I'll be honest, the amount of games I've watched has completely dipped. I'll watch them. I still have them on. My attention to the games are much lower than they usually are. But the Yankees are 62-68, 19 games back in the AL East. And when you look at their wild card, they're 11 games back in the wild card. They're almost so bad that they're almost going to be behind the Guardians here soon in the wild card standing. So it's ugly as a Yankee fan right now. It's only a matter of probably couple days, weeks until they get eliminated from the postseason. Does this team even hit 70? This team could be bad. This could be a 70. If this continues and the Yankees only find a way to win 8 games the rest of the year, imagine them going 70-92. This is going to be a low 70-win team. It really is. They've got 1 month of baseball left to be played. There's not a whole lot of games left. I think there's probably a little less than 30. If the Yankees play 500 baseball the rest of the way, they are probably a mid-70 team. Like that's how bad it is with the Yankees. That's what tough of a spot they're in. But yesterday, after the bench clearing brawl, Brandon Lau made a comment. He said, "It's a last place team against a team that's in contention. Not worth our time. We need each game. They're not really in each game." Which he makes a great point. The Rays need to stay healthy. They don't want to get hit. They don't want injuries. They don't want guys going down. They need these games. The Rays are 6 games up in the first wild card spot. They are 2 games back of the Orioles. They're going to be a playoff team. They're an 80-win team. The Rays are miles ahead of the Yankees right now. I know sometimes they get the job done and win games with smoke and mirrors, but they still find a way to win. They still find a way to put up winning streaks and find a way to go out there with pitching and some hitting and not a whole lot of power, but they find ways to win. They find ways to get the job done. And the whole comment to me, what it tells you as a Yankee fan, what it should tell the Yankees organization, comments like that should wake up an organization. Comments like that should be eye-opening to an organization. Because remember, this is the Yankees we're talking about. One of the largest organizations in all of sports. One of the most known organizations in all of sports. What it has become is a complete embarrassment. And I continue to say this. The Yankees are not the Yankees that they once were. They're just not. Let's just debate. That's just the simplest way I could put it. They're not the Yankees that they once were. You don't put on these Yankee games with nearly the same energy that you used to. You go back to the 90s and the fans that lived through the 90s. Those teams would come back and go. See, those teams had guts. Those teams had heart. Those teams had toughness. Those teams had talent. This team has nothing. This organization has turned into nothing. The way the Yankees operate now is not what the Yankees of past used to do. And I think that's eye-opening because the Yankees still think they're smarter than everybody else. They still think they are on top of the baseball world, when in reality they are a dumpster fire and they're a laughingstock. And the reputation about the Yankees, the way the league views the Yankees now is completely different. Teams don't roll into Yankee Stadium. Teams don't see the Yankees on their schedule and get afraid anymore. They just don't. They see the Yankees on their schedule as just another team. And it's sad, but that's the reality, and that's where we've come. That's where that's how low this team has fallen. It's just the reality of it all. So, just wanted to get into that comment. Another series lost. They'll open up a series tonight against the Tigers. Open up a 4-game series. I mean, I don't even know really what to expect. I mean, you probably split. I don't think they'll win the series because they don't win rubber games. They don't win rubber games. They just don't. They don't win rubber games, which is wild. It's crazy to think if you remove the Royals and the A's, who are basically AAA teams, basically, because they're both horrible. If you remove those teams from the Yankees schedule, the Yankees are probably a 50-something win team right now. They're probably a 50-win team. Because what? And again, I don't want to be that guy taking away wins, because a win's a win, no matter who you do it against, no matter who you play, whether you play the worst team in baseball or the best team in baseball. Worst team in any sport, best team in any sport. A win's a win. But, I mean, really, if you look at the Yankees schedule, and you take away the Royals and the Athletics, they're probably a 54, 53-win team right now. And they're right at the bottom of the AL with the White Sox. I mean, that's how really bad it is. Again, the only series that the Yankees have won since July was sweeping the Royals. And they swept the Royals after going 1-5 on a road trip against the Rockies and the Angels. That's the last time they won a series. I mean, that's crazy. That's the last time they won a series, was the Royals. We're going all the way back to July. It's September, basically. So, it's Labor Day. It's almost Labor Day, and we're still talking about the Yankees losing series. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that quickly there. Didn't want to go too in depth. And I don't really talk much. Don't really need to talk much more about this team. We all know what they are. We all know what they've been. But I just thought that comment was interesting yesterday by Brandon Loud, because it does show you the Yankees in-house still view themselves as this great organization, this true contender, this team that they feel is so talented, but the way the league views them, it's sad how far they've fallen. It really is. And hopefully that's eye-opening. Hopefully somebody within the Yankees heard that quote and, went out there. And then you had Ian Hamilton going out there and saying how he wished they played another game against the Rays and all that stuff. And something about beating them up or whatever. It's like, why would you want to play another game against the Rays so you can lose 3 or 4? Why would you want to do that? So, I don't know. This team's a train wreck. But anyway, that'll do it for the podcast today. Yankees-Tigers tonight for maybe the few fans out there that still care about the team. Tomorrow I'll have my NFC standings out. We'll have these out over the next 8 days. AFC East was today. Tomorrow, NFC East. And so on and so forth throughout the rest of the week into next week, bouncing back and forth every day from AFC to NFC. So stay tuned for that. A lot more content coming your way. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.